Let me bring in Ian Calderon, former California State Assembly Majority Leader from 2016 to 2020, the youngest, by the way, in state history, and Michael Starr Hopkins, a political strategist who has worked on the Obama and Clinton presidential campaigns. So, Michael, we talked a short time ago about how the speculation that Trump is amping up might just be to detract from his January 6th woes, but let's look at this realistically. What would it mean if he did decide to get into the race, not just for Republicans, but could he be Biden's dream opponent?
Well, I think it means a couple things. I think first, it's going to have a real detrimental effect on Republicans in the midterm, were he to announce before the midterm elections. I think the last thing Republicans want is a referendum on Donald Trump in 2022. But I think what Donald Trump's trying to do is clear the field. Look, he knows that Ron DeSantis is a tough candidate and is someone who kind of balances out the weaknesses of Trump. And I think as he potentially heads into a third presidential race, he's really nervous about the prospect of having to run against Ron DeSantis. Democrats are fiending for a Trump run.
Yeah, and CNBC is out with new polling today, though, Ian, showing Biden at his lowest approval rating on job performance and the economy ever, lower than Trump or Obama at their lowest. Are polls like this driving not just Trump's calculus, but frankly, anybody looking at the race?
Oh, it certainly is going to have its impact. I mean, I think on the Democratic side, there's a growing frustration that there is a lack of leadership and this vacuum of a strong message that can push back against a lot of the policies that Republicans are passing across the country. But also at the same time, this feeling that Democrats have to own this position that we're in terms of the economy, when a lot of the circumstances that led to where we're at frankly happened during the Republican control under a Trump administration. And we would really like for there to be a more strong message rather than feeling like we're on defense all the time, more offense. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of Democrats really energized by what Governor Newsom is doing, pushing back in a real strong way.
Well, let me ask you about Governor Newsom, because I think he was lieutenant governor when you were majority leader. In any case, you know him. You've worked beside him. You know his political ambitions. So when you see his travels, his ad buys, and his rhetoric, does he look more and more like somebody to you who might run for president?
Look, I mean, I think it would be foolish for anybody who could be a contender to not think of it. And so it certainly is an option for him. I do think that his actions were more based on his frustration at that vacuum that I talked about and feeling like there isn't somebody that is stepping up and really driving home these messages and calling out these policies that Republicans are passing and really posing the question, is this the future that you want for yourself? Is this the future that you want for your families, for your kids? And so I think that that's what his ultimate motivation is. But I certainly think that is something that's on the table. I don't think that people should be lightly overlooking the vice president and the role that she can play. But that race is 2 years away, and a lot can happen between now and then.
Well, Michael, look, that's the people who could be a headache for President Biden, right? But let's talk about some other things, because there's polling from the New York Times that shows the number one issue driving Democratic voters to want the different candidate in 2024 is age. They have a separate headline that says young voters in particular are fed up with older politicians. I guess that raises the question, and it's not just Biden, but it's Trump as well. How old is too old?
You know, I think it's less about the number and more about the energy factor. And I think what a lot of Americans, especially Democrats and young Democrats, are feeling is a Democratic Party that doesn't reflect what the Democratic voters look like. I think the president has really lost an opportunity here when it comes to being able to excite the votes, the base. So, for example, he could announce that he was going to federally legalize marijuana today, use the tax revenue from marijuana legalization to offset the deficit. And then he would be able to box in Joe Manchin on Build Back Better. But we haven't seen those type of programs. Instead, we've seen the president kind of, really fall behind in his response to abortion, fail to adequately respond to things like critical race theory, and not aggressively take on the Republicans in a way that I think Democrats see fit. You know, when he calls Mitch McConnell a person of honor, I think a lot of Democrats are kind of left scratching their head wondering, if Mitch McConnell's a person of honor, then, what are we doing here?
Michael Starr Hopkins, Ian Calderon. Great conversation, guys. Thank you so much.